The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, written by Washington Irving and first published in 1820, is a classic American Gothic tale set in a small village near the Tappan Zee River in New York. The story blends humor and horror, centering around Ichabod Crane, a superstitious schoolteacher, and the legendary Headless Horseman, a ghostly figure said to haunt the area. It explores themes of superstition, love, rivalry, and the unknown. Introduction. The story takes place in the small, eerie village of Sleepy Hollow, known for its ghostly atmosphere and strange occurrences. The residents of Sleepy Hollow are deeply superstitious and believe in a variety of local legends, the most famous of which is the Headless Horseman, the ghost of a Hessian soldier who lost his head to a cannonball during the Revolutionary War. The Headless Horseman is said to haunt the countryside, riding on horseback in search of his missing head. Picture a quiet, eerie village nestled along the banks of the Hudson River. This is Sleepy Hollow, a place where strange things happen and ghost stories are as common as gossip. The air is thick with superstition, and the most fearsome legend of all is the tale of the Headless Horseman, a ghostly rider who haunts the countryside in search of his missing head. Imagine it, a shadowy figure galloping through the night, headless, but carrying a fiery pumpkin under his arm. Could such a thing be real? In Sleepy Hollow, anything is possible. Now, imagine yourself as Ichabod Crane, a tall, lanky schoolteacher from Connecticut who arrives in this mysterious village with big ambitions and a love of ghost stories. You're about to step into a world where the line between the supernatural and reality is blurred, where rivalries simmer, and where the legend of the Headless Horseman comes to life. Ichabod Crane. The protagonist, Ichabod Crane, is a lanky, awkward schoolteacher from Connecticut who comes to Sleepy Hollow to take up a teaching position. Ichabod is described as tall and gangly, with exaggerated features. He is highly superstitious and easily frightened by the ghost stories told by the townspeople. Despite his strange appearance and timid nature, Ichabod fancies himself a man of refinement and culture. He is also ambitious and opportunistic, particularly when it comes to romance. Ichabod becomes enamored with Katrina van Tassel, the beautiful and wealthy daughter of a prosperous Dutch farmer, Baltus van Tassel. Ichabod sees Katrina as his ticket to wealth and social status and begins courting her. However, he faces stiff competition from Brom Van Brunt, commonly known as Brom Bones, a local hero and prankster who is also vying for Katrina's hand in marriage. As Ichabod, you've come to Sleepy Hollow to teach in the local schoolhouse. You're an odd-looking fellow, tall, with gangly limbs and a nose that sticks out like a beak. But you pride yourself on your intellect and knowledge, and you believe you're above the simple folk of Sleepy Hollow. And then you meet Katrina van Tassel, the beautiful and wealthy daughter of Baltus van Tassel, one of the richest farmers in the valley. Can you feel your heart flutter? Katrina is your chance, your ticket to wealth and success. But there's a catch. You're not the only one vying for Katrina's attention. Brom Bones, a brawny, confident, and mischievous young man, is also courting her. He's the local hero, strong, fearless, and beloved by everyone. Brom sees you as a joke, a rival he can easily outwit. But you're determined to win Katrina's heart, no matter what. Can you sense the tension? Every encounter with Brom is a challenge. He teases you, plays pranks on you, but you refuse to back down. You believe that with your charm and intellect, you can win Katrina over. The rivalry. Brom Bones is everything Ichabod is not. Strong, bold, and confident. He is known for his mischievous sense of humor and is popular among the townspeople. Brom sees Ichabod as a rival for Katrina's affections and begins to play pranks on him, attempting to scare him away. Despite these attempts, Ichabod remains determined to win Katrina's heart, though it is unclear whether she is truly interested in him or merely enjoys the attention. The rivalry between Ichabod and Brum escalates, but Ichabod remains convinced that he can win Katrina over by displaying his intellect, charm, and cultural knowledge. However, it is apparent that Brum is the favored suitor among the locals, and Katrina's feelings toward Ichabod seem ambiguous. The Van Tassel Party and the Headless Horseman. The climax of the story takes place at a grand party hosted by Baltus Van Tassel at his farm. At the party, Ichabod enjoys himself by eating, dancing, and engaging in lively conversation. As the night progresses, the guests begin to tell ghost stories, and the legend of the Headless Horseman is recounted. Ichabod, already highly superstitious, becomes deeply unnerved by the stories. After the party, Ichabod sets off on his horse, Gunpowder, to return home through the dark and eerie woods. It is here, on the road that leads through the dark glen of Sleepy Hollow, that Ichabod encounters the dreaded Headless Horseman. The figure, riding a massive black horse, is headless and carries a pumpkin under his arm. Terrified, Ichabod flees, with the horseman in close pursuit. The chase leads them to a bridge near the old Dutch church, which is said to be a safe haven from the ghost. Just as Ichabod crosses the bridge, the horseman hurls his pumpkin head at him. The next morning, Ichabod is nowhere to be found. His horse is discovered wandering nearby, and his hat is found next to a shattered pumpkin. The townspeople speculate about what happened. Some believe Ichabod was spirited away by the Headless Horseman, while others think he simply fled in fear, leaving Sleepy Hollow for good. Brum Bones, who later marries Katrina, seems to know more than he lets on, often laughing whenever the story of Ichabod's disappearance is mentioned. Now imagine yourself at the Van Tassel farm, attending a grand harvest party. The house is filled with music, dancing, and delicious food. You've spent the evening enjoying yourself, even getting a dance with Katrina. But as the night wears on, the mood shifts. The guests begin to gather around the fire, telling ghost stories. Can you feel the chill in the air? The most famous story of all is retold, the tale of the Headless Horseman, a Hessian soldier who lost his head to a cannonball during the Revolutionary War. Now, his ghost rides through Sleepy Hollow every night, searching for his lost head. You try to laugh it off, but deep down, you're filled with dread. You've always been superstitious, and Sleepy Hollow seems to be a place where legends come alive. As the party ends, you mount your horse, Gunpowder, and set off for home. The woods are dark and foreboding, the wind howling through the trees. Every rustle of the leaves sends shivers down your spine. Then, you hear it, the sound of hoofbeats. You turn and see a figure on horseback, massive, headless, and carrying a glowing pumpkin under his arm. Can you feel your heart pounding in your chest? You whip your horse into a gallop, but the Headless Horseman is right behind you, gaining with every stride. The chase and disappearance. You race through the woods, the horseman hot on your heels. You remember the legend, if you can just reach the bridge by the old Dutch church, you'll be safe. The horseman cannot cross the bridge. You ride faster, your heart pounding in your ears. But just as you reach the bridge, the Headless Horseman hurls his pumpkin head at you. Everything goes black. The next morning, your horse is found wandering the village, but there's no sign of you. The only clue left behind is your hat, lying beside a shattered pumpkin. The villagers are left to wonder, what happened to Ichabod Crane? Some say you were spirited away by the Headless Horseman, while others believe you fled Sleepy Hollow out of fear. Brum Bones eventually marries Katrina, and whenever the story of your disappearance is told, he laughs knowingly, as if he had a hand in your fate. The story ends with an air of mystery. Ichabod's ultimate fate is never confirmed, leaving the reader to wonder whether the Headless Horseman was real or merely a clever prank by Brum Bones to rid himself of his rival. The tale remains a haunting, ambiguous legend that has endured for generations, blending humor, horror, and superstition. Was it real or just a prank? The story eventually ends with a question: was the Headless Horseman real, or was it all a clever prank by Brum Bones to rid himself of his rival? The truth remains a mystery, and Sleepy Hollow continues to be a place where legends live on. Themes and analysis. Superstition and the supernatural. The story plays heavily on the theme of superstition, with Ichabod representing the type of person who is deeply affected by ghost stories and local legends. The power of the supernatural in Sleepy Hollow reflects the community's beliefs and fears, and the story suggests that superstition can be used to manipulate and control others. Rivalry and love. The rivalry between Ichabod and Brum Bones is central to the plot. Both men vie for Katrina's affections, but they are polar opposites in character. The rivalry is portrayed humorously, but it also has darker undertones as it escalates to a point where Ichabod is driven out of town. Imagination versus reality. The story blurs the lines between imagination and reality. The existence of the Headless Horseman is left ambiguous, allowing the reader to question whether Ichabod's encounter was a supernatural experience or the result of his overactive imagination and Brom's trickery. Class and social ambition. Ichabod's pursuit of Katrina is driven by his ambition to rise in social status and gain wealth. His desire to marry her is less about love and more about securing his future, reflecting themes of class and the pursuit of material success in early American society. The power of storytelling. The story emphasizes the power of storytelling, both as a means of entertainment and as a way to shape perceptions and beliefs. The legends of Sleepy Hollow, particularly the Headless Horseman, play a central role in the community's identity and have a profound impact on the characters' actions.